Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to answer the questions that those of you asked in the short that I posted last week. I made a video, just a short video, asking for you, the viewer, to ask me any question about pipeline and I would make a video answering the questions. So I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9 questions. And one of those questions is, am I going to go back to pipeline work? I'll save that one till the end, so stick around. The first question I got was, I believe this may have been generated by AI, I'm not sure. Somebody might have been being smart, but I took the time to answer, and I might have used AI to answer some of them myself. Come on. Because I wasn't sure on some of them, and it was very elaborate. But I said I would answer the questions, so here we go. The first one was, they kind of asked it all at once, but I broke them up into 4 essential questions. So the first one he asked was, he or she or it, I don't know. What are the challenges and considerations in welding pipelines in remote or hazardous environments? The first thing that came to mind whenever I thought about like hazardous or challenging is the last pipeline job I worked with Andy. Those of you remember Andy. And we actually had to walk in to either walk in, we had to walk in a lot and or ride a Maruka buggy back to the welds because we were working in West Virginia, real muddy, and just the right-of-ways were more narrow versus like in the South, you know? So, or anywhere, not just in the South. North Dakota is flat. Anyway, in the Northeast where I worked a lot, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, the right-of-ways were a lot of times a little more narrow than usual. So just to kind of save room, instead of driving our trucks back there, they put us on Maruka buggies and put our weld machines on Maruka buggies and whatnot. So that's the first thing that came to mind whenever I thought of that. So might have to be on foot, which can be dangerous. Takes you longer to get out whenever you're pipeline welding. Like if somebody gets hurt, you know, it's going to take longer to get to you, so it's hazardous in that way. Hazardous, or if you get hurt or have a health issue happen while you're out on the right of way. So it definitely is and can be dangerous. It may take longer to get help if injured. Already said that. Porta cans or portable restrooms can be few and far between depending on the job. So that can be a challenge from welding on pipelines. Number 2, he asked, how do factors like power supply, safety, weld monitoring, safety and weld monitoring affect weld quality? Power supply must be big enough welding machine to burn proper welding rod on that particular job. One thing I just learned the other day through talking to a pipeline buddy of mine, Jared. He was at the branch workshop, by the way. So if you've seen that video, if you haven't, go check it out here on the channel. But anyway, yeah, Jared was there. A good buddy of mine, still a pipeline welder, and he was telling me that a buddy he knows has been burning a bunch of downhill. I was fixing to say 7018, but low high. It's actually not 7018, or the little I ran. I ran some for a day at the local 798 hall here in Tulsa, and or there in Tulsa. I'm not in Tulsa, but anyway, I believe it's like 90-45. But anyway, it's downhill, low high. And anyway, Jared's buddy was saying that I think like a 532 rod, he's got to be up there at like 250 amps or something. So a lot. So because we were talking about Lincoln's new, I don't even know the name of it, Frontier maybe. Let me know in the comments if that's right. So anyway, we were talking about how that one, because Jared's trying to decide between a cross country or a Frontier, and anyway, he just learned that about the downhill low high, and I didn't know that either. Apparently, from this one friend of his, that's the only review that I'm talking about right now. I haven't asked a bunch of people, but apparently it's a lot faster than like cellulose downhill rod, and he actually likes it. A lot of us pipeline welders that have welded with downhill cellulose rod quite a bit, a lot of us get nervous with low high rod because it's more susceptible, is that the word? It's more susceptible to porosity whenever it's windy out, or mostly wind. I would say water too, but mostly wind, and just the nature of burning 7018 or low high. it's more susceptible to porosity. So that's like my hesitation or my nervousness around burning if I ever had to get on a job where I burnt that downhill low high. But after hearing that he liked the way it ran and it was faster and it put a lot of metal in, after I heard that, I'm kind of hyped about it. And it's, supposed to be better quality, less likely to crack, which brings me to the next question. So yeah, I'm actually interested in this downhill I keep wanting to say 7018 low hydrogen that they have come out with. So power supply was his first question. What was the question? How do factors like power supply, safety, and weld monitoring affect weld quality? So that's the one thing I wrote down for power supply, just making sure you have a weld machine big enough to burn said rod. To kind of give a comparison, if that rod takes 250 amps to run, that means like Lincoln's MPX, like one of them small gas machines. I think they make a 265 and a 3 something nowadays. But or like a Miller Trailblazer or a Bobcat. I think a Bobcat is like a 250. I could be wrong. Again, let me know down in the comments if you know off the top of your head. But all that to say is them smaller machines, if it's only a 250 amp machine, it's not going to be able to run that welding rod, or it could, but it's going to put a lot of wear and tear quickly on that smaller machine. So just wanted to mention that because over the years I've had people ask me about welding machines and what welding machines you need for pipeline work and whatnot. So the next was safety. So how do factors like power supply, safety, and weld monitoring affect weld quality? Safety, it is important to have a safe welding environment to make a quality weld, is what I wrote down. Because for how does it affect the weld quality? Well, as a welder, it's important to be comfortable as a welder, as comfortable as possible, especially whenever you're making an X-ray weld. So that's why I said it's important to have a safe welding environment, because me and my welding partners that I pipelined with have been up on skids, good 3-4 foot tall before, or had to be under a piece of pipe that was somewhat low to the ground, and so you want to make sure you have skids on either side of you underneath the pipe in case the side booms do let down. It's going to land on the skids, not us, or dig out more instead of don't even weld it that low to the ground to begin with. There's definitely a lot of factors that safety plays a part in making a quality weld, because if the welder's not safe, he can get hurt and the weld doesn't get made properly. So yeah, I would just say making sure that you got a comfortable environment to weld in to make a good X-ray weld. So the next one is weld monitoring. I wrote, weld monitoring is a great way to make sure welds are of good quality. So whenever I think about weld monitoring, I think about a One Oak inspector. I use One Oak, not to pick on the One Oak gas company out there, but they're the ones that come to mind whenever I think about that. Or Phillips is another one that I've tested for both of them, and both of them like to prod your welding rods and test your, they like to be checking your stuff with their little meter while you're welding to make sure you're within the parameters while you're welding. So I say all that to say is it's important to make sure your welding machine is running right to make sure you're making a good quality weld. Number 3 is, what is the role of post-weld heat treatment in mitigating hydrogen-induced cracking in pipeline welds? Post means, I think, after, like post-grad? Post? I think post means, what is the role of heating a weld after it's done in hydrogen-induced cracking in pipeline welds? So post-weld heat treatment makes the weld stronger and less likely to crack. I worked on a job in Tennessee where we had we were welding with downhill. I believe it was 24 inch. I want to say it was like 375 wall, or not 375, 750 wall, which is 3/4 of an inch thick, if I remember right. And boy, maybe it was thicker than that. Anyway, it was good heavy wall. It was 3/4 of an inch or thicker, possibly 888 wall, which is just under 1 inch. So anyway, we had one weld out there that had a crack in the very bottom, and X-ray found it, and so we had to cut that weld out and re-weld it, if I remember right. Or did we try to fix it? Usually it's a cutout. I'm pretty sure we'd cut it out, because usually you gotta, if it's cracked, especially on heavy wall like that, you usually have to cut it out, because if not, you're taking a chance of you're taking a chance of it being cracked. You're just taking a chance. It's not a good idea, if I remember right, to try to just fix the crack. I think you want to cut it out and make a whole new weld. So anyway, but it could have been because we didn't keep enough heat on it after we made the weld and then wrapped it in a like a heat blanket, essentially, that way that kept the heat in and allowed the heat to escape slowly. So that's what post welding or post heat treatment is for. And number 4 question is, how is the appropriate temperature time cycle determined for the heat treatment? The right temperature and time depend on metal type, welding method, thickness, goals, standards, past experience, and expert input. And pretty sure I got that answer from ChatGPT, and I would agree. It depends on all those, metal type, welding method, what kind of welding you used, what kind of material it is, which I think metal type, the thickness, what other goals you may have for that for that weld, the standards that you're shooting for, and then past experience, what we've learned before, and then expert input. In other words, the inspectors, the welders, everybody's combined experience on that project, just kind of knowing real world experience versus something that they've read out of a book. So, all right, that's those questions. That 4 of them, but he commented all 1. Next question is, why is so many rig welders selling their rigs? I can't know the answer to that, or I don't feel like I can. All I can say is because to me, why is so many? I mean, what's your definition of so many? I would ask, is like, what's your definition of so many? Is there 3 in your town that you see being sold, or like several people around you are selling their rigs? So you think there's a lot. So I don't know, versus like, where I live, maybe nobody's selling their welding rigs. I mean, I don't know, you know what I mean? So all that to say is, all I can give is my like experience and thoughts on that. I don't know it's kind of an open-ended question or whatever. There's a lot of details there that I don't have to work with, but anyway, I would say even whenever I was pipelining, I met guys that were getting back into it, that had sold their rig, years ago, and they bought a new rig, got back into it. I met, I heard of guys that were selling their rig, getting out of it while I was doing it. I would say it's been, as of current right now, it's beginning of 2025. I would say in the last 5 years, pipeline work has been slower. That's not to say that rig welding work has been slower. The question is rig welders, so many rig welders selling their rigs. So this isn't just pipeline, but I am answering questions about pipeline. So anyway, I would say it's been slower, so that could be a thing. I didn't think about, maybe you might have seen them on Facebook Marketplace or something. Maybe there's a lot on there. I don't know. I don't get on there, but I would say it's likely that because work has been slow, that guys have got out of the business, had to do something else, couldn't stay busy as far as pipeline work goes. I would say it's a real possibility as of lately. So yeah, and one thing I want to mention about that is, even though work has been slower, pipeline work has been slower, I will say, as a word of encouragement, if you will, to those of you that are wanting to get into it or whatever, and you're kind of wondering about, I'm going to shut this curtain. You're kind of wondering about, if you should get into it, if there's enough work to go around or whatever. I would say one thing that I've learned over the years is that I kind of look at rig welding as pipeline welding. Really, this is any industry, in my opinion, kind of like a revolving door. In other words, there's always, I can think of 3 people right off the top of my head, plus a buddy of mine that I pipelined with that has passed away. And so all that to say is, people pass away, people retire, rig welders retire, and myself, my brother, and a buddy of mine, Michael, that, like I said, that's just 3 off the top of my head, have not been pipelining within the last, well, Michael might have pipelined within the last 5 years, I'm not sure, but me and my brother definitely haven't pipelined in 4 or 5 years. I know I haven't pipelined in 5 or so years, or more, coming up on more, maybe 6 years now. So anyway, my brother a little, maybe 5 years. So all that to say is, just right here with me, that's 4 welders I can think of off the top of my head that are not pipelining. So that's created spots for other people, younger people or other people that want to get in the industry, because people's lives change, seasons of their life change, their interests change. I mean, things are always changing, so I kind of just keep in mind that like things, people are always coming in and out of the industry. So what I would say as a word of encouragement is to just, if you want to do something, I would say absolutely focus on it and go after it with all your might, because as long as you're focused on it and as long as you're making all the moves, if you're focused on it, you're gonna naturally make the moves to get there, and there will be a spot for you. I truly believe that. That's not to say it'll happen as fast as you want, because I know one thing that a lot of us struggle with nowadays is more instant gratification because of social media. We want it like now. You don't want to. We have a tendency to not want to put in all the footwork and all the time to get something. But anyway, that's what I would say about that. Next question is, have you ever welded TIG? Yes, I have welded TIG. Did a little bit structural, no pipe. I've welded very little pipe at Western Welding Academy years ago when I went and visited them whenever they first started their welding school. But structural, lots of aluminum whenever I worked at Stillwater Steel right after high school. So I've done some structural aluminum, stainless, mild steel, but not, and I do a little bit here and there. I got a little TIG Wave 200 that I do little projects. In fact, I just fixed a cheese curler, which I have a video on that I will post at some point on this channel. But so all that to say is I do small TIG welding jobs here and there, but I mean, I definitely don't have a whole lot of experience. Next one is, I'm a self-employed mobile welder, never done any pipeline work. What would I have to do to get into pipeline work with my own rig? So self-employed mobile welder. Whenever I have somebody ask me that question, like how do I get into pipeline welding, my initial thought is to go check out a couple of videos, which I will link in the description below. Or if I don't link them, just Google pipeline welder prep, or like how to get into pipeline work. And I've made at least two, if not 3. Really, I've made several, but if you just kind of search that term here on YouTube, you'll find my videos as well as other people have made some. But I've got at least, like I said, 2 dedicated to that, if not more. I know there's another couple I've made about like how to transition from your 8 to 5 to your, to being a mobile rig welder. And so I've made some videos over this topic. That's what I would do, just to kind of keep it short in here. But other than that, just kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about staying focused is what I would recommend. You've already got a mobile welding rig. I would just say network. I've talked about the importance of networking whenever it comes to wanting to get into any industry. You gotta be amongst people that are in that industry. So doing whatever that takes. I'm sure social media, you could join groups on social media nowadays to help with kind of find out where things are at. But it's hard to answer that question as far as what exactly to do, but because I'm so literal and I always want to like give you like real tangible things, but sometimes the tangible things that I think are tangible may not be as tangible to you in the town you live in or where you live or whatever. So I'm not sure, other than just surround yourself with people and just let it be known that is what it is that you want to do. Because if you're talking about that's what you want to do, and you're surrounding yourself with other rig welders, and you're networking, and I mean you're getting to know people, it'll naturally find you because you're focused on it, and the world knows that that's what you want to do. So do you generally weld the pipe together then drop it in, or weld it together in place in the ditch? So most of the time on pipeline work, I say most of the time, most of the jobs I worked on, we welded it together above ground and then we dropped it in the ditch. However, I have worked on at least one job where we welded it up in the ditch. There's I would say there's certain situations, like the one job where we welded it in the ditch. It was in West Virginia, real nasty terrain. The right of way wasn't very wide. Now I don't know how much experience this contractor had, because I've worked for several other, I say several, yeah, I mean, safe to say several, I'll say a few contractors up there that didn't lay the pipe in the ditch. You know, they laid it above ground and then lowered it in. There's a whole crew on pipeline work dedicated to lowering in pipe. So sometimes as a welder, sometimes the ditch is dug while you're laying pipe next to the ditch. Sometimes the ditch isn't dug yet whenever you're laying pipe. You know, we may lay the pipe as welders, and then the ditching crew come in behind us and dig ditch, and then the lowering in crew comes in and lowers long sections of pipe in all at once. And then there's even welders. Like, I've been on a lowering in crew, because sometimes on a lowering in crew they want to put two long sections together and then lower them all in, so or lower it all in. So, and then lastly, will you go back to pipeline work? That is actually currently something I've been asking myself, because my service-based work has been slow, and because of other personal issues. I've considered going back to pipeline work, but I haven't decided yet. I am still carrying my 798 book. In other words, my membership card. For those of you that didn't know, that's what a book is. I think it used to be an actual book, but it's a card that I carry in my wallet. I pay monthly dues. I pay $31 a month to keep my monthly dues. That has kept me on the wheel. I'm 107 on the wheel, and so they literally haven't posted anything since I think right before Christmas. As far as on the job line on their website, you can look at, like anybody can, I think you can log on to local798.com and you can look at the jobs and you can see what jobs they've posted, because as a 798 welder you have the option to get on the wheel. What I'm calling the wheel is the like list. It's an out of work list, like, because most of the agreements, not all of them, but most of the agreements on pipeline work is the welding boss has got to hire. He can hire, and he has to hire 50% of his welders contract, which just means through word of mouth, the same way non-union works. But then his other 50% he has to hire from the dispatch, you know, so from the haul, from that out of work list. So anyway, I'm real low on the wheel. I think there's over 1,000. I don't even know how many's on the wheel. I think it's over 1,000. I say all that to say they haven't posted a job since before Christmas, and it's almost the middle of January as I'm filming this, and they still haven't posted anything this year. So, but if they ever do post anything and I can leave, I can't leave for at least another month or two, probably a couple months if I'm being real here. But so if a job comes up, I can apply for it, and I would most likely get it because I'm so low on the wheel. So I've had half of mine to turn my book in because I haven't been pipelining, and you know, it seems like a waste of money. But as I've said over the years, I like being a part of the community. I like being able to go to Tulsa because it's only an hour from where I live in Oklahoma. And so anyway, all that to say is, if they ever post a job, which I'm sure they will, there will be something. They don't have much going on, but they will have something come up at some point whenever they call for a welder. And so I could go on a job, and so I may do that, but I haven't decided yet. I've got a couple of substantial big life things going on right now, so I don't know if I will end up doing that or not. Or I say I need to decide. I guess I could sit on the wheel and keep paying my $31 a month forever and ever. That's an option, I guess, unless they finally make me go to work. Or actually, yeah, I say I need to decide. I need to decide if I want to save $31 a month. If I don't care about the $31 a month, then I can just sit on this wheel forever and ever and pay the $7.98 forever and ever, as long as they exist. Or the other thing is if I want a pipeline but I can't stay busy with the union, then I'm going to have to turn in my book and go work non-union. That's what I was getting at. I will have to decide, because I'm not going to go work non-union and still carry a book just because that's the rules. It's what I signed up for. I'm not going to do that. So I will be turning in my book if I go work on a non-union job. So anyway, that's my take on if I'm going to go back to pipeline work. It is to be determined. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful, and let me know if you have any more questions in the comments below, and if I get a lot of questions, I'll make another Q&A video answering your questions. Have an awesome day. Don't forget to check out our online trade school, AROSSWELDING.school, where you can find the pipe fence course, quick rig course to build your very first welding rig, quick, fast, and in a hurry, and on a budget, the branding course, and also coming up is the branch workshop, March 8th and 9th. In-person workshop where I and whoever else I have show up, we will personally show you how to do the branch course, which is the most common pipeline weld test. You got to know how to do it if you're going to be a pipeline welder. And even if I never pipeline again, I do love teaching how to do the branch. I think the branch is very valuable for anybody wanting to be a mobile rig welder, not just a pipeline welder. I think it's just a good all-around thing to know how to do that teaches you a lot about cutting, fitting, grinding. I mean, it just is a good, well-rounded thing to teach, and that's why I chose it to do in the workshop, because you get a number of things. It's a 2-day deal. You get a number of things, number of experience. You get like across the board, you know, like I said, laying out, cutting with the torch, fitting with a grinder, and you get stick welding experience, uphill and downhill, and pipe welding experience, all in one, all in one, you know, test or whatever, all in one deal right there. So it's a huge value add in my opinion. So that's why I chose to do that as the in-person workshop. So if you're interested, head on over to AROSSWELDING.school, and we will see you in the next video. Remember, learn something every day. Thanks for watching.